the other thing, which is quite surprising about this little corner of West Yorkshire, is the fact that there was once a film industry here that not only boomed, but was bigger, believe it or not, than Hollywood. So when we talk about this being a film destination for Last of the Summer Wine and other things, that's bang on. But its actual history as a film location goes way, way back, much, much further. Thank you, Adrian. That's a nice clarification. So Holmfirth was a kind of centre for a pioneering filmmaking by a company called Bamforth and Co. And the tall building just at the end here, again, we're going to try and not run over to get there. I'll show you a picture of Mr. Bamforth. It's always nice to see a picture, isn't it, and see what people look like that we're talking about. So here is James Bamforth. And he was a publishing sort of film and illustration company based here in Holmfirth. Your niece lives here, how lovely. That's definitely never the name of the house. So it was started in 1870, and he was a portrait photographer based here in Holmfirth. In 1883, he began to specialise in making lantern slides for magic lanterns. Do we know about magic lanterns? Magic lanterns are so cool. So let me show you a magic lantern picture for those that don't know. And they're kind of a precursor, really, of cinema. So this is what the camera actually looked like. So you see there's two lenses. And believe it or not, they're actually invented in the 1600s, firstly. And one of the lenses on the front there beams a really strong ray of very, very bright light. Isn't it beautiful? Yeah, beautiful engineering. So this is Bamforth's studio here. This is the place that rivaled Hollywood, believe it or not, right here. So one of those lenses beams a kind of really very, very strong beam of light. And the other, you drop slides in it, and it then projects. And I'll show you an image of the projection. And it's the opposite of what we have now in terms of cinema projection. Well, we don't have now digital, but you see how it's projecting from the back? So obviously cinema projection was projecting from the front. This is from the back. But as a precursor to cinema, this was hugely, hugely popular. And people would sort of turn out, because where they sort of started off and did really well was in the travelling shows, the kind of travelling entertainment shows. And they would have very, very many of these beautifully drawn. So I'll show you here. There's the plaque look for Bamforth here in Holmfirth. So what they would do is, in effect, sort of tell stories or illustrate by the slides. So I bet I'm going to see. Let's put up a few slides from a well-known story, and let's see who can guess what the stories that's being told. So these are Bamforth slides. So let's do this as a first one. And a second. Have we guessed which film? Not film. Which story? Of course, it's Alice in Wonderland. So basically, you would have a very theatrical narrator, or even more than one person narrating the kind of story, and then you'd have these images. So, of course, it's not cinema. Of course, it's not cinema. But you can kind of see how, it's almost electrical storytelling. And so this was a huge art form, the magic lanterns. And that's basically what Bamforth started before he made films. So in 1898, then, the company started making silent monochrome films with the Riley brothers of Bradford in West Yorkshire. And they've been making films since 1896. So the first films made in Yorkshire in 1888. So very, very exactly pictorial storytelling. You bang on there, Eleanor. That's exactly how I describe it. So this all happened here. This was where they made the production studio. And so with James Bamforth's kind of exercise in lantern slides, that was sort of... I think so too, Becky. They'd be enthralled, wouldn't they? Captivated by stories, great images, all packed in together. Real sense of occasion. So obviously his experience of making these slides was invaluable in the filmmaking. And they developed, a Bradford guy developed the camera from the cine camera. And so this is how they moved from the kind of stills to moving images. And by 1898, they were making films here. There's RAB films. And that lasted until 1900. At that point, it takes a slightly sort of stranger turn, because Bamforth goes to the production of postcards. And originally, he does sort of slightly, sort of what I call sort of lacrymo, sentimental. You see here, you got a hymnal, faith-based image there. So click and expand that. Absolutely, Mark. Go to the Bradford Media Museum, although it's going to be closing for a refurb, I think, quite soon. So they started producing these kind of faith-based, kind of tuck in your Bible verses, but very, very quickly they decided to go in a completely opposite direction. And Bamford and Son became notorious for saucy postcards, what they call the English seaside postcard. So here's a kind of example, and it was always, kind of very dominant, very buxom women that were incredibly strong and sort of dominated the men, and the men in these postcards sort of seemed to like the idea of sex, but were utterly kind of cowed by these sort of powerful women. And so, another one that I like that I kind of saw a photo of earlier that I just thought I'd share with you. It's on a notice board here, which is a rare one where the kind of the man is, if you like, in the ascendancy. But even so, he's responding to infidelity. So just have a little look at that one. So he went into postcard production, and it became huge amongst the English kind of working classes. And he accumulated so much money that by 1913 he decided to go back into film production. And they started making the Winky films. Now, most people, of course, haven't heard of Winky. It's also they introduced editing at this studio as well. So it's a really kind of important step along the way of kind of popular culture. So Winky, let me give you a picture of Winky, was a character whose trademark, not surprisingly, was to wink. And like Oliver Hardy, he's kind of straight into the camera. Absolutely, thank you, Susan. So he was a huge kind of character, about 80 short films made with him, very, very popular. He was actually a Swiss guy whose name was Reginald Schwitzgerbel. But during the First World War, of course, it became very scandalous to have a foreign name. So he changed his name to his mother's maiden name, which was Reggie Sheridan. So Winky was the original character. So from these TV studios, these film studios, he created the web. But anyway,